Maybe it's working.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Friday Night Flock Talk. I'm Robin Sullivan of the Leather Elves. If you're new to Friday Night Flock Talk, we do this almost every Friday night, and we have different guests, different speakers, and we talk about a range of all different, everything parrot, actually everything avian. So I need to do a few reminders. You can like the Leather Elves on Facebook, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel. There are a lot of different ways to check us out, and you can get notifications of flash sales, things like that. And when we go live, you'll get a notification of that. So a lot of different ways and to connect with us, and it's really exciting to have different people from different walks of the avian community. And before we get started tonight, the two ladies that I have on as guests tonight are really they're icons in the avicultural community, and they have worked tirelessly for many years with conservation and breeding and rescue, you name it, and these ladies have done it. So because they have been so iconic in the community, we want to help out with their project, the Eclectus Arc, which we will hear all about tonight. But I just wanted to announce that the Leather Elves will be having a sale through the weekend, through Sunday at midnight. And it is 20% off your toy order, and 20% of your order will go, the cash will go to the Eclectus Arc. I didn't tell Laurella and Lisa about this beforehand, but because I wanted to surprise them. So if you want to support the Arc, the Eclectus Arc, and get some fun toys for your birds, go to the leatherelves.equid.com or the leatherelves.net, place an order, enter code Eclectus, you'll get 20% off, and 20% of your purchase will go to the Eclectus Arc. Hi, ladies. I hope they're there. Are you there?
That blows me away. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. So I should let everybody know. I got to do a little bio on you guys before we get started. But Laurella Desborough is a world-renowned expert in Eclectus parrots. She's the author of many journal articles, and she is the co-author of the first book on Eclectus parrots. And she continues to speak at avian conferences. She graciously is joining us tonight, and she's the go-to lady for Eclectus. She and Lisa both. Lisa has been working with Eclectus for over 20 years when she acquired her pet Eclectus, Sheba. And she has helped many bird owners with their Eclectus parrots. I know for a fact that if you've got an issue with an Eclectus, or you just want to talk Eclectus and get some help and some information, these are the ladies that are always available to you. They did go in together and they purchased a property in rural Oklahoma, near Claremore, Oklahoma. So that's why we're kind of fighting with internet a little bit. So, but we're going to do what we can. So how are we doing, ladies?
We're doing great. It's a beautiful sunny day. The birds are fed. It's quiet time before we go do this.
Nice. So, all right. So I have to ask the question. That's on everybody's mind. People, inquiring minds want to know why Eclectus? Either one of you.
Well, they're when they first were well known or relatively well known in the US, there were so many questions because people were finding them difficult to work with. They weren't like Amazons or macaws. So I found them fascinating and I decided to focus my entire energy on these birds.
Nice. And Lisa, your love of Eclectus comes from your pet Sheba.
I purchased I two Eclectus babies back to back from a pet store a little over 20 years ago that were I did that ransom thing where you see babies that are in trouble and people are clueless, they need to go to, and so you do what you need to do. And, got these two finished up, learned a lot with working with Susie Christian, with Laurella, with Graham Taylor, and ask people that are renowned in their field, but were very patient, very kind, very tireless in not being annoyed by all of the picky questions I asked. And in the process, I fell in love and decided that I wanted to work with them and raise them.
Nice. And, I think you bring up a good point. It's about passing on that information. And there were people who were there for you. There were people who lifted you up and got you the information you needed. And now you and Laurella and you're doing that for other people. And I think that's something that is really wonderful about the Eclectus arc is it's tell me what the arc stands for.
It stands for Research and Conservation Institute, but that's such a long name, that's why we called it Eclectus Arc. And
There we go.
we get questions from people all over the world because they recognize that they're willing to help and they ask us questions. We try to provide assistance.
And I think,
gentlemen, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was going to say, I just helped a gentleman in India with his percentages of pulses to vegetables in sourcing how he could better balance his diet, and also I'm with a lady in the Calgary, Canada area that purchased a unweaned baby, and she's been successful in her weaning process and getting this baby back on the right track.
Nice. And the comments are rolling here, and I don't know if you can read them. And Sarah Holloway, and I can't pronounce her last name, says that Laurella has helped me and I couldn't be more grateful. And I feel that that's kind of a trend that we're going to see in these comments tonight. So Lisa, it's been 20 years for you. Laurella, do you want to tell us how long it's been for you?
40 years.
40 years. And that's some dedication right there. It's something that you don't, you either see this wonderful commitment or it's kind of a flash in the pan, and you guys are that commitment personified. So thank you for that. So, okay, we know that you went all out, you guys purchased this property. When you started, what was the mission of the Eclectus Arc?
If I can jump ahead, Laurella and I were working together on Yahoo groups and every place that we had people to answer questions and put information out there. And we would say, why is place a resource for people that are breeding or raising eclectus, eclectus to get correct information, a place where people are working and sharing and demonstrating.
Did we lose you?
I guess nobody else is going to step up to it, so we need to.
And I think that's, there are these pockets, these kind of voids that happen, and people don't always step up to fill them, but you guys have done that. So Laurella, what would you, in your heart, what was your mission when you started this? Same idea or?
Well, one of the problems that we face is Eclectus come in these 9 subspecies, and many people are not trained in how to identify them because most of us bird breeders don't run around and study every species and how to identify it. So one of the majors we're working on is to have precise subspecies and to raise them to inform people of how to identify the males and the females so they're the right ones together. Because now what being in this country and in other countries is people are mixing them up. Even the officials in Indonesia smuggle birds that have them and they want to return them to the right island because they come from different islands. These officials are not trained in that. But that's one of the things we can do. And with publications which show pictures of various parrots. We have found publications which have misinformation on these. Thankfully, the editors have agreed that they will take the correct photos and put them in there because we've asked them to do that. If that's done, we'll not be able to see subspecies and we'll lose them.
Well, and Taylor
So
Haynes is on
that's a
listening, and he said that he looked at the shelves in the field museums and cried as there were subspecies he'd never heard of, and that it hurt his head. And I know, you guys have are going to be talking a little bit with Taylor, and I think this is something that, down the road might be, you guys could get together and do some genetics work with your work and Taylor's work, and I think it would be a match made in heaven.
Absolutely.
Over the years, there have been 3 separate times when I have sent blood samples to the lab, and each time in the 90s and ended up in the past few years, each time they were unable to identify the different subspecies. So if there's nobody to do that, that's wonderful.
And I think Taylor's your man. We've had Taylor on as a guest here, and he knows his stuff. I know I got the glazed look every now and then because I really didn't understand what he was telling us, but he's good at it, and so there we go. So we've got that connection. So let's talk. We got to backtrack a little bit and talk about just basic Eclectus. So we know they're different. I refer to them as divas of the pet world, but that's just me. How are they different from other parrots? Aside from the fact that they're sexually dimorphic, what makes them different?
I'll answer a little bit and Lisa can answer too, but one is physiology. They have a gut tract that's 56, 57 inches long, and because I paid my vet to measure, and they have a large proventriculus, and the large proventriculus is normal for them. And what that all means, they take more nutrients out of the food. So that means they're taking a lot of stuff out of anything they eat. So that's a critical element, and they do need rough more so than perhaps many other parrots. Their behavior is different. In the wild, the females own the territory nest site, and this is a very strong genetic program for them. That means when they're in a pet cage, they're pretty much in that pet cage. So it is unwise to put a second bird in, male or not, because as far as that female is concerned, he's not necessarily somebody that she knows or wants to have there. So those 2 things are very critical. But in addition to that, they're very smart. They're not big on biting. That's their major. In fact, they generally only bite when they're scared. So if they're nicely, they don't bite, which is very good. They are smart. They learn to talk, and they know what they're saying. They understand a lot. So it's really important for an owner to tell them stuff and communicate with them, and always to talk before they tell.
Interesting. It's when you talk about communication with them, I think that's critical with any bird species. But I think, where you mentioned they don't usually bite unless they're scared. Then if you're explaining things, if you're giving them that heads up before you're doing things, then I think that probably is a one way to have success with them. We've got some pictures here of some pictures from around the ark. So Lisa, what do you think? What makes them different, in your opinion?
They They are in some ways that they are as calculating and observant as an African ray. They take in all the details, but uh, they're much more. I guess I would say even laid back about it than a gray. Grays are pretty direct, and Amazon's
Mhm.
direct. But a lot of times an eclectic, for example, if you are trying to ask them to step up or trying to touch them, they will take your finger and move it instead of actually biting you. They'll take finger in your face, move it, they'll push it away. They'll try to gently let you know this is not something I want. Keep them, they will bite. Or if you frighten them, or if they are, especially if you're working with a bird that has been with someone else previously who did not know their boundaries, that all changes. In the same way with a dog or a cat or a human that hasn't had their boundaries respected. But they're very different in the way that they approach life and think about things. And I've never speaking with friend A about the fact that our birds refer to us as um, female. They don't call us boys. They don't say good boys. They say good girl. I never have them just repeat things. They spend a lot of time trying to find the correct verbiage
Hmm.
to express their thoughts.
It's interesting. Sarah says she almost didn't get her female because people called them red devils, and she's so happy
Oh,
that
no.
she didn't listen. So yeah, it's and I think that might be, when I think about it, when you describe it that way, is that they kind of you can kind of watch them think through things and find the correct that they're more in tune as far as that's concerned. And I've always joked that they're divas, but when you think about it, it may just be that processing time that it's not, that they're not standoffish. It's just that they're kind of working through stuff. So that might be part of it. So you've opened my eyes to a new thought. So thank you.
Thank you,
Um,
Robin.
behavior.
Well,
Let's talk about behavior. Laurella, you mentioned it's different. How would you
Well,
characterize?
one of the one of it seems some pet owners have the females, and I find that interesting because my females are very sweet. They cuddle up under my chin and they'll say, "I love you." And the same with my husband's pet female, she would do the same. The thing about the females is, I think people push quickly to be pets when they first acquire them. And instead, it is an idea to give the bird time to know who you are. And
Mhm.
today, a week, 6 weeks. But when you're patient and when you talk to them and when you they don't want to be pushed, then they become excellent pets. They become
Yeah.
loving. And when they say, I love you, they know what they mean. They know it. So behavior with Eclectus is we have to remember that these birds in the wild, half of the babies that are dead before they're a year old because of predator. So they have a very strong wariness of anything new, a new environment, a new person. And that's part of their program to survive. So they are following their genetic program to survive. And if we respect that and work them and talk to them so they're comfortable, they become very, very comfortable with us, very happy with us.
Mhm. I I was consulting one time, and I went to the woman's home, and she had a female eclectus, and she was fully flighted, and she would fly. She originally had her play stand, a tree at the end of a long hallway, and the bird would come out and go down the hallway right to the tree. It was dead in the middle at the end of the hallway. And she was all of a sudden started having behavioral issues, and she said, can you come over? And so I came over, and the tree was not at the end of the hallway. She had moved it to the side. And now she had two trees, and they were on the both sides of the hallway. At the end, the hallway came out like this. They were on the sides, and the bird wouldn't utilize them at all. And I said, well, you've created a situation where now she's got to cross this canyon to get from one tree to the other, go across this hallway. She can't see what's coming down the hallway. And it's that observation piece that I find working with Eclectus parrots, is that they're all birds, all of our birds are prey species. So they are aware of the environment and what's going on. But I think that the Eclectus, maybe it's just more noticeable. I'm not sure, but I feel like they're a little bit more observant than most.
I
Yeah.
I would agree with that. They don't do as much bluff as, say, a cockatoo, for example, on that, and they don't do as much uh, bravado. They analyze. They, especially Aruensis and Voss analyze everything they see, and you can just see the little as the wheels are turning.
The Michelle,
One
who
of
is a
the
regular
things,
listener, says that her late Voss was a thinker, and you could see her working through her decision. And she also says, Laurella, you made her night. Lucy used to tell me she loved me all the time and blow kisses. So thank
Oh,
you for validating that for Michelle.
well, one of the interesting things about Eclectus is if a pet owner is going to go on a vacation, it's really important to tell the bird that you're going away for a few days, tell them days, and that you will be coming back. Because people go away and don't tell their bird, the bird thinks they're lost. They're gone forever. And then when the people come back, bird, like, why? Where were you? What tell the bird, and this is fascinating because I don't understand how they know, but they do. If you tell the bird, I'm going to be gone for 4 days, and then when you return, the bird's normal as if you weren't even away. So things like that matter. Telling them things that are going to happen, they understand more than we think.
And I think that's, it's those little nuances that you guys know so well, because, you live and breathe Eclectus. And so I think that's important for people to hear and to know that, because I think it's frustrating too, because they are such thinkers, and people when a behavior issue happens, sometimes it's with some birds, it's just, the change of season or whatever that may be. But with these guys, I think there's a little bit more that happens that we need to be aware, and not just get frustrated when something comes up as a behavioral issue.
Yes, understanding what happened right before a strange behavior in the bird and analyzing, provide information that's helpful to the owner. And
Right.
maybe some little thing that seems to be important, but for the bird it is.
So Ashley says she can't tell Diana her Eclectus because she chews up her suitcase. So maybe she doesn't want Ashley going anywhere. I don't know. And Julie says that she thinks that they require more freedom and foraging opportunities than the average parrot. that the males can occasionally, she's seen males that occasionally resource guard food, and each day because they do the feeding of the hens. I didn't, that they fledge quickly. Let's see. She says they're not a dusty or a dirty bird, which is kind of nice, but they are food flingers. Do you guys have food flingers at the Ark?
Yes, we do. Lots and lots. And one of the reasons, that's one of the reasons when we feed, instead of using a cage bowl per se, we generally feed with a pan. What the food is distributed lightly, so they can see everything in such a way that they don't have to find things in order to find.
Karen says that she always tells first-time clients to let their birds know that they'll be coming back. Karen runs a avian boarding facility, top notch. If you're ever in the Minneapolis area,
She's wonderful. Wonderful.
she's awesome. So she says that it makes a difference. She's seen that with the birds that they board there too. So let's talk diet, because I know this is huge. And that, there are definitely some do's and don'ts as far as Eclectus diet is concerned.
Well, I would say, first of all, let's cover a couple of the negatives, because that's kind of critical. Here in vet now, do not feed birds eggs or meat, something that the bird's digestive system is designed to process. So what happens is plaque builds up in the arteries. And I personally have known of an Eclectus that was only 3 years old that died of a stroke. So that's like a big no-no now for Eclectus. We just keep trying to tell people that
their diet is very high fiber, and it is they're at their first feeders. They feed they feed on flowers and buds and new growth and leaves. So the things that are more difficult for them, and they process those carbs and the cholesterol in particular, where it just seems to annihilate them in a way that doesn't do, for instance, with an Amazon that eats part hamburger or for years.
Well, the other thing about the diet is we do provide a cockatiel type Zupreme natural colored. We don't feed pellets with dyes because one of the things that's happened, and this was not even an Eclectus, was a gray, the bird consumed a tremendous amount of colored pellets, and the dye was an irritation. Bird plucked on the crop and then eventually chewed on. And this bird was checked, analyzed by a veterinary professor, and that was his opinion. No colored pellets. So for Eclectus, it would be really critical to feed colored pellets. The other issue, which we find really fascinating, is that there's been a researcher who did the work on and who published material that said parrots have difficulty processing man-made vitamin A. Now, beta carotene is the ingredient, but man-made A is the ingredient. Parrots do not easily process it. What happens when an Eclectus eats things like nutriberries, which is a really for other parrots, but when an Eclectus eats it, it gets too much man-made A because of its long digestive tract, and then that man-made A goes liver, and it blocks the calcium moving from blood into muscles, so that the bird ends up with muscle spasm, which are known as being or wing. And this is rather common with Eclectus. It may not happen to everyone, but it happens very often. So those are two things that you don't want to do.
So no eggs,
Yeah.
not a lot of, no meat, and staying away from colored pellets. I just want to kind of go over that again so that
Yes.
people make sure they hear it, because we are having some issues with the internet, but just so that we're clear on that.
Yes, and the muscle spasm. The other thing about the diet is a lot of fresh stuff and things like pomegranates and berries and cherries. All of things are important. But one of the things our birds seem to really love is leafy material like commercial dandelion, which is like a 5-inch leaf, or kale. They really, when they have babies in the nest, they eat 5 or 6 large leaves every day as
Wow.
a major part of what those little babies get. So it has to be important because they're making a choice. They're going to do that.
They'll go down and pick that out first.
Yes.
Over cornmeals or anything else.
So,
So, I mean, that's
also,
interesting. It's interesting if you think about, if someone were going to work with an eclectus, you'd want to make sure that they got those things, but you could also use that to your advantage as far as training is concerned, because you could use
yes,
those leafy things as a reinforcer.
You can get the eclectus to start chewing on, starting with a young bird, by offering them, because they love to explore so much. But with an older bird, you can get bunches of things like the dandelion leaf, or like a organic turnip green, or uh, kind of grade leaf like that, and put a bunch up there, damp, nice and wet and fresh, and they'll leaf bathe in them, which is a natural behavior for them. And then they also will chew on them, wipe their beak, do all of those things. You'll waste some for a while, but they'll start fooling with it.
and they're very
Leaf bathing
curious.
is one of my favorites. I think it's great, and it encourages them, because then it's not this horrible foreign thing that you've put in there, and it does serve a dual purpose. So I think that's really great. Um, so now you guys are
A
doing
seed
some
does.
freeze dried products, yes?
Yes,
Yes,
we are.
yes.
So tell us about that, please.
About the that's kind of an outgrowth of our dehydration. My husband and I were dehydrating things for since the 70s. And uh, when when our senior tech, Curtis McCleskey, came, he had started food surplus, because so much food is just seasonal, and you can get great buys sometime of the year, and it's very scarce other times. And so commercial freeze drying became available for home based units. We're smaller. We were very, very fortunate. Very dear client gift us a commercial freeze dryer for the ark, so we could try to retain some of that food in a form that didn't have to go into a refrigerator or freezer, shelf stable on field.
Nice.
And it preserves, freeze drying preserves. Um, it retains the shape and the color of the food in a way that dehydration does not, and it seems very palatable to the birds. They do like the dehydrated stuff. They dried.
So
They like crunch.
is the dehydrated food higher in sugar than the freeze dried?
That's a
That is a great question. I assume that those are very sweet, would be because the moisture's been removed um, and your sugars would be more concentrated than they would be in the different way of removing moisture that freeze drying does. I don't understand that they are any more concentrated. But
Mhm.
since we choose to use foods, for instance, like primarily use a Granny Smith apple, which is much tartar, doesn't have nearly as high a sugar value, and it will fresh looking all day, while a red apple or a lot of the other commercial apples start brown and yucky after
Mhm.
an hour in the bowl. They're not necessarily bad. They've already started to oxidize. So
Just
that's just my thought.
when you were talking about dandelions, Carrie Ellen says there are no dandelions in Florida. She remembers Jeannie Pattison jumping a fence at a restaurant in North Carolina to pick some to bring home for her birds. I can see Jeannie doing it too.
Well, what we do is we order commercial dandelion seeds from Baker Creek and we grow them.
Ah, yeah, I could take you right out in my
Even though
backyard
they
right
don't
now
have pesticides.
and show you
Oh
that I
yes,
have a field of
the
dandelions. They're the bane of my existence. But Ashley says she grows her own. They grow fantastic in a wet, shady area. She's from Pensacola, so not, super South Florida. But so what was the seed company again, Laurella?
Baker Creek. You can go on the internet and look at the seeds. They have all kinds of seeds.
they have lots.
Yes.
So
True Leaf also has wonderful organic commercial type dandelions. They're actually, I think most of the commercial dandelions are a, a variant of chicories, which they're all in the same family,
mhm.
um, and they're made to have a bigger leaf and not to bolt. They've been bred not can food, but they've been bred for generations and generations and generations to be
Hmm.
a leafy green.
And it's easy to grow in a little pot. If you just one or two birds, you can easily grow it.
Nice. So Nick had put up on the screen um, the people can get your freeze dried products at the Etsy shop. So if you guys are looking
Yes,
for some freeze dried products from the Ark, and all the money that you take in there goes back into the birds and the more freeze drying, right?
yes, it's definitely, it all goes to feed birds, things for birds, and any surplus um, that that we have um, is something that's made available to those who would like to do the things that we do.
Nice, very nice. So I need to go back for a minute. You said you offer the food mostly in pans. Do
Hmm.
you find that they use that as a kind of a foraging activity as well?
So the pan is really handy because we could put all kinds of things in there along with their food, put a spray of millet if we want, or whatever, so that the birds enjoy working on that food bowl. And it's something where they have to throw things out. They can see it and go for the things they like first, and then they come back later things.
With
Right. Which
with
is
some of
is
the
a good way to look at it.
I was going to say, for instance, with the babies, we're starting we're starting the red-sided girl on fresh soft foods, and I'll start with um, a piece of a millet spray for them to play with as a toy and consume some of that, and then get the soft foods that they explore and play with, almost as a beak toy, but then they start eating it, uh, and put a little bit of milk seed and maybe a little safflower and a couple of sunflower seeds in that, and gradually they more and more and more of those foods will their formula um, in their process. And the parents, the same when the parents are feeding them, they'll take pieces in and put them in the nest for the to try and to eat.
Mhm.
Yep.
And I think, that's a great tip for people who are trying, whether you're weaning a baby bird or whether you're trying to convert a bird's diet. I think, you know, it's important for them to be able to explore it and maybe say no to it the first few times.
Yes.
And then but you've got to stick with it. And I think, have you guys found that as far as any conversion? Like I know you guys take birds in as well. Um,
Hmm.
you have rescue birds. Diet conversion. How do you guys approach that?
It's occasionally we'll get a bird that's not used to eat fresh. We're like, well, what's this? What's this? But give time, they will explore. And I've worked with other people who are trying to encourage their birds to eat a variety of fresh stuff. And I remember one guy who said it a year for his birds to learn to eat berries. But that
Oh,
there could be circumstances where they're resistant. But we find that given the opportunity, they like to explore, and two birds graduate to a full diet.
I think
and I
that's
know, I
all the
know.
same
Go ahead,
than
Lisa.
I have for the. I'm so sorry, Robin. I was going to say I've had a lot less trouble transitioning it than any other species. Cockatoos are, you know, they're no for wanting only a pellet, and you can put a few of those in their food, and they'll gradually break down and eat it. They like the colors and shapes.
Hmm.
But with Eclectus, we just took in three wonderful birds from a family that a family member passed, and they had been trying to care for them by themselves for multiple months, and the birds were just, you could see that they had not maybe been on a, a correct diet to begin with, but not knowing how to feed them correctly, things had kind of south. And
Hmm.
those birds not eating fresh foods, they like them. They like the shapes, they like the colors, they like the display. They'll go and try different things, and they're cautious. They don't necessarily just put their head in the bowl and eat all of it. But I haven't had a lot of problems. But I also use a variety of foodstuffs every day.
Hmm. So that I think that's important. And Julie mentions here, they don't need their food finely chopped, that they'll like just tear into whole foods. Do you guys do skewers with larger pieces on it?
Yes, yes, we've done skewers. Uh, that's one of the fun things for them to work on something on a
So
skewer.
Nick says he starts them with bell pepper cores.
The bell pepper cores go into the food every day.
Yes.
Every day. That's one of their favorite. That's one of their favorite parts, and all the seeds that are from them. And
Hmm.
they like squash,
There we go.
all kinds of different flavors and textures and uh, things that are fun. But for daily thing, they always have a fresh, and our chop is hand chopped or machine processed. Uh, a commercial cutter that Curtis uses, but it's a size, roughly the size if you were to get corn peas and carrot mix from the grocery store. Eclectus, they like that size. They like the other size to play with and to consume, but if you're trying to just feed, um, this that what is it, half inch, quarter inch, between quarter and half inch size is ideal eating.
Okay. Grace just checked out your store and she says it's got lots of great reviews and it's great that the money goes towards your mission. So, all right, you've got a fan in Grace. Nice.
Yay! Thank you, Grace.
So we talked about what we were going to talk about and I didn't put this in, but I know you'll talk about it with me anyway. So what do you do for enrichment? You guys know that's my thing. So what are we doing for enrichment at the Ark?
Oh, they love one of the very critical things if a person can access it, branches from willow. You get them along the road, auto exhaust. But if you could get willow branches, they love to remove that green skin on the branch and chew on it and chew. They love to chew on the leaves. This is enrichment. And for us, if we have neighbors who will let us get branches of trees and we use those as perches, and they will work on those perches. They will remove the bark, chew on it. It gives them a lot of fun. That's a natural enrichment. But we also give them toys. We have wonderful people send us boxes of toys for birds, and they have a variety of different kinds of toys. So we put those in the birds also. So they have man-made toys, and then they have the natural stuff.
And
And so
even with the man-made, even with the man toys, we try to look for things that stimulate their natural behaviors. Different birds have different play types, and they have different things that they find enriching. I've had birds that only wanted to with very, very small cocktail size toys, and they were very macaws that never tore them up, that would just play, and they would take a toy and make it last and last and last. And then we've had smaller birds. We've had conures that buzzsawed through things that were much larger birds. It's in just that particular bird. Just because it's bright and colorful doesn't mean that they'll find it fascinating.
One of
yeah,
the
and
things we ought to mention as really important for the pet owner, especially if they have an eclectus, they look at another one. It's really critical that each one has its own cage, because the female in a cage, she's going to own that cage. We've out there who kind of don't learn from observation, and they'll put a male in a pet cage with a female. She kills it. He doesn't belong there. So then they put another one in. She kills him. So it's not 100%, but it's a very high percentage of the females that do not want a strange in their cage. And even if they love the male, they don't want him in there all day. He can be in there a little while, but that's it. So if you have two eclectus, it's a good idea to have two cages.
In nature, the male eclectus, yeah,
so
at first, and she has the house to herself. And he off and he comes back and feeds her as he has gotten enough. They're not hanging out together. And, they don't do allopreening and a lot of the other kinds of behaviors that other species of birds find comfort. But with the enrichment, besides willow, there are lots of things.
Yes.
Many people have crepe myrtles
Yes.
in their
Flowers.
They use hibiscus if you're in the south, or althea, the rose of Sharon, in more temperate climates. And those are things that you can grow that make your yard beautiful, and at the same time enrich your birds. You can use your plant trimmings. Um, there are so many different. We're using maple trimmings from my maple trees right there in the pictures that Nick has just put up. And as you can see, the boys are all going to town.
Yeah, they love it.
It seems like they're a little bit more detail oriented. That you mentioned, Laurella, that they peel the willow and they chew on the bark, and
Yes.
we use a lot of birch in our toys, and the reason we do it is there are the layers. There's the paper layer, then the kind of like cork layer, then the wood itself.
Right.
Are they as voracious chewers as like some of the macaw? I know they're, it varies from bird to bird, but I've never really discussed that with anyone.
Well, let's put it this way. In raising ones and flying around the house and so on, I don't generally let them chewing it. However, one of the first little rose-breasted cockatoos I raised, on its first flight, it flew to a window and immediately started chewing wood. That's not what a Eclectus would do.
Well, they may, but I also find that female are more oriented to chew in that way, but males, if you'll notice how those males were into the maple leaves, they will go and eat and chew and extract the nutrients from the bark and the underbark, and at the same time they'll also eat the stems themselves from the leaves, which is where the nutrients are, and let the leaves fall. Just like I know a lot of people, my bird won't eat kale. Well, how are you offering it? Oh, well, I've cut the stem out and I'm rolling up the leaf and chopping it. Oh, you took the good way. You took the and gave them the peel. So
we have a question. Michelle said, can you talk about the jackfruit infusions in your shop, and are those high protein?
Jackfruit in the jackfruit infused things that Curtis has made. They have a little bit more, but they're just infused. They're soaked and freeze dried. But it doesn't it it adds some nutrients, but it also adds interesting flavors. Or depending on what the preparation is, it may add some interesting textures. Because jackfruit is so commonly used in their area of the world, of the Eclectus area of the world. They use it even to substitute in Indonesia for pork and all kinds of dishes. But jackfruit that Curtis thought great way to use the materials there to make the food more interesting.
You could see in the picture a lot of tree leaves, tree branches that have been cut down and will be turned into enrichment for the birds.
This isn't just for the cute factor of having Curtis there. Curtis actually does do some work, and we've got
the branches.
They might use some of their. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say they might get that whole branch and strip off all of the branches and leaves, and then Curtis pull it back out of their cage and trim it and turn it into a perch too. You know,
Nice.
you want to make
You've
sure
got landscapers on
that's where
staff. The birds are doing that job. That's kind of nice.
yeah, it's great.
So we are at
Animal.
an hour, and we
Yes,
didn't get
ma'am.
through everything we were going to talk about. But I do want to ask you, how can people help you continue with your conservation work and your, looking into the various subspecies that half the people don't even know exist? How can people help you guys?
Good question. Oh, we can benefit by donations of funds. We can benefit by donations of food, toys, any kind of support that will make a difference.
Shop our Etsy shop.
Yes.
Buy a T-shirt. Um, our food products. See if they work for your birds. Start our efforts to be to team up with Taylor, for example, his incredible offer to come and help us for our genetic project here, so we can find the the DNA on these various subspecies. We have birds that we kept to their importation in many cases, and to island groups or island they came from. And that's important for science. It's important for the future. It's important for pet ownership, because bird that is has characteristics from each parent, and they're not as predictable. You asked me how your Voss cross is going to do. Well, what were they crossed with? I don't know. I know what Vossbury do, and I know what Redside do, and I know what Arwensis do, but you
things we might do to membership, and that might make a difference. And of course, provide certain things for members. We have a lot to work on, and of course, we're rather the many things we have to do, raising babies and so on. But possibilities, I think it would be good.
creating. I think she was saying we have discussed creating a Patreon type situation for Eclectus Arc members, where there was exclusive content, and at the same time you would have access to ask questions, or receive looks at, like, first readers for Laurella's book that she has in process, or our papers. Uh, that's just a thought. It just trying to think of some way that we could be more involved in all parts of the city, and that will help us with our work.
Well, I think,
And we
I
appreciate you.
what you're doing, your conservation work, your help. I mean, everyone I talk to in the Eclectus world says, Lisa and Laurella have helped me. They've answered my questions. I reached out to them and I got answers. And if somebody asks a question, I always try to funnel them to you guys. And so I want to thank you for that work that you do, because it's as critical as the conservation work that you do and the rescue work that you do. All of it is so very important. And if you can put up, you guys have a GoFundMe going on right now.
Yes, we
This is
do.
the address for the GoFundMe. So if people want to donate there, that would be wonderful. It can help, continue this great work that you guys have heard about tonight. Don't forget, we've got the sale going on at the Leather Elves, 20% off. So you get birds for your birds. And then 20% of their sale goes back to the Ark. So we can help that way. It's not a lot, but it's something that we can do from the Leather Elves. So there are comments in here. We have a lot more to talk about, ladies. I think we need to, I'd love to talk about the subspecies and find out some more information, because all of this is fascinating to me. So if you guys are willing, I'm going to say we'll have you back on again.
Love that.
So kind, and we appreciate it. And you know what? It really helps the birds. That's what it's all about, the birds.
That's the bottom line.
Thank you.
It really is.
Thank
you
for
guys.
all you've done for agriculture.
I love, because I get to meet people like you guys, and that's what makes it worthwhile. So Tiffany says she sees a part 2 in the works, and Julie will be there. So yes, you're in demand, ladies. You've got a fan base. So we're going to have you back on again.
Everyone who came.
Thank you.
Lots of great comments and questions, and we'll all go through that again and answer any that we didn't get to while we were live. But I want to thank you again, ladies. The other thing I need to mention to people, while I've got everyone's attention, we are also doing a GoFundMe for the Rockstar Rescue Tour. The Rockstar Rescue Tour, for those of you that don't know about it, we're going to visit in July. We're going to go to 13 different rescues from Maine to Florida. And we put up a GoFundMe because we do need some assistance with fuel and like van rental, things like that. You can also purchase boxes on the Leather Elves, rescue boxes for the participating rescues. We've got, sponsors. We've got Bonka Kings, A&E Cage, biodiversity bird blends, say that 3 times fast. So we've got Kemp Enterprises, Mighty Bird Toys. All of these places are contributing to this. So if you can help us out with the Rockstar Tour, that would be wonderful. We will not be here next week. I'm giving Nick the week off. So we will, and we also want you guys to take some time to, spend some time with your families. Remember and honor the service members who gave all for us on Memorial Day. And so we will be back May 31st, and we will be live from Kiko's Parrots in Tacoma, Washington. You never know who's going to walk into Kiko's. So you want to tune in for that. And we will, if you're in the area, if you're up in the Tacoma area, please stop by on Friday night. We will be there. It'll be 4 p.m. Pacific. I had to think about that. Look at me doing math. But we will see you guys on the 31st. And between now and then, support the Ark, support the tour, support the birds. So everyone have a great week, and we will see you soon. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye.